Tonight, we are not just telling a story. We're stepping into a world where your body is your language and silence is your armor. Here, beauty is power, but only if wielded perfectly. Where love may visit but never stay. Where desire is scripted, rehearsed, and watched. You don't know it yet. They will remember your grace. You don't know it yet. They will remember your grace even if they never knew your name. Now close your eyes. Breathe in. The scent of plum blossoms drifts into your lungs. The light filters through sheer golden drapes, honey-colored, soft as sighs. You are a concubine in the palace of the Son of Heaven, NNOT wife, not servant. Unripple in the Emperor's sea. A footprint. Let the day begin. You rise before the sun touches the tiled roof. Your bed is not yours. It belongs to your rank. And your rank is not fixed. It lives on the edge of a breath, a raised eyebrow, a forgotten bow. A maid enters without knocking. She says nothing. She pulls back your blanket of brocade with practiced hands. Another pours water from a bronze ewer. And steam coils up as you dip your fingers into the basin. Rose oil clings to your wrists. Jasmine stings your eyes. You're not supposed to flinch. There are rules. Unwritten, gilded, cruel. Your body is not your own. It's a performance, and a canvas, and a secret waiting to be read. You glance at the other women through the open screen. Dozens of them, all beautiful and all silent, and each one dresses as if her life depends on it. Because it does. Silk gowns embroidered with phoenixes, hair combed into loops that rise like crowns, eyes painted with the winged sharpness of longing. You do the same, because today the Emperor might choose you, nor not. And you place the jade comb down with careful reverence. Each motion is watched, not by people, but by history. This chamber has swallowed generations of women like you. Some rose, most vanished like incense smoke. You try to remember which one you are. And outside the garden glows, lotus ponds glimmer with fish like red brushstrokes. A peacock calls, its voice rough and haunting. Musicians tune their zithers beneath cypress trees. A eunuch passes with a scroll tucked in his sleeve. He does not look at you. You are a whisper in the palace's breath. No more, no less. NBUT. The world feels heavy with meaning. And even the wind moves with purpose, as if it too waits for the Emperor's notice. You walk the path toward the hall of fragrant petals. Your feet slide silently over stone. You do not rush. Rushing would make you look desperate. NTHE, other concubines, glance your way. Their faces are calm, but their eyes flicker, assessing, remembering, ranking. You look away. You have trained for this. The single laugh and the wrong tone can cost you a month of exile, and a misplaced hairpin, a demotion, and a wrong answer, silence, forever. You reach the gate, and a guard nods. NTHE Hall opens before you, wide, glittering, and cold. Golden dragons coil around the pillars. Painted ceilings rise into... Women sit on silk cushions, motionless waiting. Each hopes the Emperor will glance her way. Each fears what will happen if he does. You lower yourself onto your cushion, your hands fold in your lap, trembling only on the inside. And time moves differently here, like honey poured from a high place. Somewhere behind the curtain, he is watching, or perhaps he's asleep. or drinking wine brewed with chrysanthemum and deer antler. You are not to ask. You are not to ask, only to wait. Your heart beats like a drum, because in this world, noise is danger. Noise means notice, and notice is both a crown and a blade. And as the sun rises behind the palace walls, your shadow stretches long across the polished floor. You wonder, silently, will today be the day? Will your name be spoken aloud in the silk-draped hush? Nor will you simply return to your chamber, an unseen, untouched, unchosen? And what would hurt more? You don't know it yet, but today will echo through time. Maybe not, but in the way a woman centuries from now will look at herself in the mirror, in the way she will straighten her spine when no one is watching, in the way she will choose silence, not as defeat, but as defiance. You are not a ghost. You are a beginning. Now breathe. The morning bell has rung. Your day has begun. Before your eyes fully open, something burns your nose. NNOT perfume. Not incense. It's the sharp sting of ancient air, stale with lacquered wood, dried herbs, and an old sweat soaked into silk. You inhale. It catches in your throat. Your back aches. Your arm is numb from sleeping too still. You're not allowed to sprawl. You slept with your hands folded like prayer. NTHE silken blanket slides from your shoulder, and the chill beneath it is startling. There's no warmth here unless it's granted. And before your eyes fully open, something burns your nose. NNOT perfume. Not incense. It's the sharp sting of ancient air, stale with lacquered wood, dried herbs, and an old sweat soaked into silk. You inhale. It catches in your throat. Your back aches. Your arm is numb from sleeping too still. You're not allowed to sprawl. You slept with your hands folded like prayer. NTHE silken blanket slides from your shoulder, and the chill beneath it is startling. There's no warmth here unless it's granted. And you rub your hands down your arms. Last night's oil still clings to your skin. Clove, sandalwood, something else. They scented you like a fruit. Not for your pleasure. For his, your chamber is beautiful, but narrow, NNO window, NNO window. No breeze, no sky. Just a carved screen and a silk painting of a mountain you'll never see. Just a tray has already been left at your door. NTWO red dates. A sliver of dried fish, warm rice congee, and tea. Not. This is not luxury. This is survival dressed as ceremony. You eat slowly, not because you're savoring, but because it gives you something to do with your hands. A girl younger than you, maybe 13, passes by your door. Her cheeks are powdered too heavily. Her robe slips at one shoulder, and she looks terrified. She's new. You look away, you dress yourself, and because the maids will not touch you today. Not unless your name is called, layer by layer, in a silk underdress, stained at the cuffs. A crimson outer robe. Your waist is pulled tight with a sash that cuts your breath in half. A final piece and a hair ornament shaped like a lotus blooming in fire. You pin it with numb fingers. Each layer is not for modesty, but for message in. I am still worth looking at. You catch your reflection in the polished bronze mirror. The face looking back does not smile. NSHE waits. just like you, and you step outside your chamber. Immediately, the air shifts. The corridor is narrow, quiet, and heavy with perfume and paranoia. They do not greet you. They have already ranked you in their heads. Beauty, influence, favor. In, you are not a threat. Not yet, so they do not smile. They do not bother. The floor creaks beneath your careful steps. Each movement must be practiced. There are eyes in every shadow. You remember what happened to the girl who sneezed during morning procession. Demoted. Vanished. The hall smells like a strange mixture. Plum blossoms and sweat. Music hums faintly from somewhere deeper inside the palace. Zithers plucking in minor key, soft and slow. You pass under lanterns painted with poems you can't read from here. One flickers. You hesitate. He narrows his eyes, not at you, but at your hesitation. You lower your gaze and walk on. There are rules. You must always move as if you've already been chosen. You reach the outer garden. Where sunlight finally touches your skin. It's warm, gold pale, and filtered through paper fans and silken canopies. It's still not freedom. Flowers bloom here that no peasant will ever see. Orchids bred only for the emperor's pleasure. You're not allowed to pick them. You're barely allowed to breathe near them. Still, you pause at the lotus pond. A curl slips beneath the surface. Carp shimmer in lazy circles, and unaware of the women who pass by them. Watching but not living. A girl near you begins to hum a folk tune. A girl near you begins to humming stops. You do not look. You do not react. You're guided toward the pavilion of the Willow Moon, where a midday audience may be granted. They say he's inside, nor perhaps not. It doesn't matter. You must act like he is. Like your next breath depends on it. Because it does. This morning is not unusual. This pain, this pageantry, this silence, all of it is normal. Shock isn't in what happens. It's in how quickly you forget it used to feel strange. Dust. The stairs, you breathe in too shallow. You'll get used to it. Or you won't. Either way. You walk forward. Your first task, stay alive long enough to reach midday. Physically alive. You've mastered that. You know how to wake before the bell. How to eat without seeming hungry. How to walk without claiming space. Survival, here is subtler. It lives in glances, and in posture, and in memory. It lives in the art of not being forgotten, without standing out too much. Breakfast is over. You return your tray to the waiting servant without eye contact. Silence here is as thick as lacquer. It preserves everything, even the rot. Your body feels like a puppet pulled by golden strings, delicate, obedient, aching. You're ushered into the hall of harmonious fragrance. It smells like burning agarwood, in faded robes, and something faintly metallic beneath the surface. Perhaps the trace of blood no one speaks of. Inside, the morning rehearsals begin, not for war, not for policy, for performance. Each concubine to smile without meaning it. Once. Not well. perfectly. You kneel beside the others, back straight, knees lowered. Night Tutor stands at the front with a scroll. She unrolls it with a flick that slices through the silence. Today, the river song. You've heard it 100 times, but you pretend it's the first. You open your mouth to sing. Your throat is dry. Your lips crack slightly at the edges. You sing anyway, soft, sweet. Controlled NTHE song tells of a boat drifting down the Yangtze, a lover watching from shore, in a woman fading into the mist. Your voice trembles, not because of the story, but because your stomach is turning. You haven't eaten enough. You haven't slept enough. NBUT, the song must finish. You cannot cough. You cannot falter, because the woman next to you is listening, and she remembers. And everyone here remembers everything. NNTHE, Tutor nods curtly. Next, calligraphy. You shuffle to the low desk, kneel again, ink, brush, paper. You grip the brush too tight. Your fingers cramp. You try to write the characters for peace and obedience, but your hand betrays you. NTHE brush stutters. The line curves wrong. NBUT, the tutor sees it. NSHE does not speak. She marks your scroll with a tiny red petal. It means almost. It means not enough. You bow, you take the scroll back. You fold it with shaking fingers. NBY midday, the light has shifted. It pools in hot rectangles on the floor. The scent of bodies, yours included, begins to thicken. A mirror is brought. You check your reflection, NNO sweat on your brow, NNNO tear tracks, NNNO swelling in your eyes from exhaustion. You bite the inside of your cheek to stay alert. You taste blood, NBUT. Your face remains calm. It might come soon, maybe a slice of pear, maybe a spoon of soup with ginseng and rice, maybe nothing. And hunger is easier to hide than disappointment. And water? But the worst part isn't what's missing. It's the eyes, NTHE women beside you, the eunuchs along the wall, the guards near the archways, and somewhere, perhaps through a screen you can't see behind, and the emperor himself, watching, choosing or not. You try to walk confidently, but inside N brain, what if they notice I don't belong here? Brain, what if my voice wavers again? Brain, what if they already know I'm weaker than the others? You move anyway because the word. A bell chimes. An afternoon rest. NBUT, no one truly rests. They retreat to their chambers to reapply rouge, and to practice flute, and to listen at walls. You do the same. You brush your hair again, even though it doesn't need it. You practice your smile in the polished mirror. NNOT too wide. N not too eager. Just enough to say, N, I'm here. I remember you. I hope you remember me. And then you lie down. NNOT to sleep. But to preserve your energy for what's next, because the sun is still high, and the real test in the choosing N comes at dusk, N, and your body must still glow like silk, your voice must still flutter like a poem, and your will must hold even when everything else aches. You close your eyes, and in that moment you feel it. NTHE air doesn't move. Your robe is damp from inside. Your ribs press against each other with every breath. NBUT, you've survived the morning. N barely. Now you pray silently and without sound. NTHAT, dusk will not ask for more than you can give. There is no room for weakness in this world. Not here. Not in these golden halls. Not behind these paper screens. Because even gods, or at least those who claim to speak for them, are watching. They watch how you kneel. Not women of the Westrican sport. They watch how you kneel. Not women of the Westrican sport. Bella cur devo bills when you whisper their names. Here devotion is not a feeling. It is choreography. Not women of the whisper their names. Not women of the whisper their names. And a time for temple ritual. You rise slowly, methodically. As always, your joints ache from kneeling, your calves from standing too still. But you hide it beneath grace. Your feet touch the floor like brush strokes. Your fingers gather the orchid from the tray like you're lifting the moon itself. You are led to the temple of the moon lantern, a small sacred space hidden deep within the inner gardens, and no outsider enters here. Not even the emperor. This space belongs to the forgotten women, to those whose voices have no place in council hall. The air smells of sandalwood, and plum resin, and something older, perhaps the scent of 1,000 unspoken prayers and left behind like dust. You cross the threshold barefoot. The floor is cold, and it remembers every woman who ever dared to hope inside these walls. Inside, candles flicker like small lives burning themselves out. They line the edges of the stone floor in perfect symmetry. And each one is lit for something. N-N-O-T someone. N-F-O-R. The air is so still. It feels like time itself is listening. And you bow your head. And your hands fold in your lap, just below your ribs. The place where your strength hides. And where breath is born. And you feel it again. In that old phrase echoing deep inside in speech balloon. You are not just a servant. You are the offering. They told you that on your first day, when your robes were still too clean, when your eyes still darted like birds, and at first you thought it meant honor, later, obedience. Now you're not sure what it means, but you whisper it anyway. Because repetition has a rhythm, and rhythm is how the soul survives. A veil rustles. NTHE priestess enters. NSHE wears pale white robes embroidered with silver moons. A veil hides her face, but not her posture. NSHE moves like someone who used to cry and no longer remembers how. In her hands, a bronze censer, VHE, in a bronze censer, VHE walks in a slow circle around you, in whispering chants in a language you barely understand. NBUT, the sounds are familiar, like lullabies hummed in an... Behind your lowered lashes, the world flickers. Candlelight memory, something older. You see your mother's face, though you haven't seen her in years. You see your village's river. You see a mountain you were promised but never touched. You see the girl you were, NTHE, one who laughed with her whole chest, who ran barefoot in the rain, who spoke without asking permission. NSHE is gone now. NBUT here, and in this breath, and in... You pray with the movement of your hands, with the tilt of your head, with the ache in your knees. You pray NNOT for love. You're not foolish enough for that anymore. NNOT for escape. There's no outside. The palace has swallowed you whole. And instead, you pray for softness in your face when chosen, strength in your spine when ignored, precision in your words when questioned, calm in your blood when touched. You pray for invisibility when danger stalks the corridor, and paradoxically you pray to be. The priestess's voice rises. It breaks into a minor key, high, trembling, raw. A song about the moon falling in love with the earth, and only to be pulled away by duty. NTO poetic to be literal. And yet you feel it in your ribs. Because you too orbit something powerful and distant. You too are pulled away every time you draw near. You too were taught that yearning is weakness. Never two frame feasing at a pebble falls from the altar. You don't know if it's an accident or an omen, but you watch it drift to the floor and like a thought that never. The ceremony ends. NTHE priestess stops singing. The censer is extinguished. Smoke coils like ghosts beneath the beams. NN01 speaks. NN01 claps. No one moves. Not yet. NN because stillness is part of the offering. You finally rise. Joints stiff. You walk outside into the garden. The sun has dipped low. Shadows stretch like silk scarves in the wind. An eunuch stands by the path, holding a tray. NHE, you bow. You receive it with both hands. You've been chosen for tonight's procession. Your face remains neutral, but your chest tightens. It could mean nothing, N or everything. Tonight he may look at you or pass you by. NBUT for now. You still have a name on the list. You still exist in the order of things. You still matter. You return to your chamber in silence. Maids arrive not to serve, but to transform. Your hair is combed into high loops, and your lips painted cinnabar red, your cheeks brushed with powdered pearl, your hands soaked in rose water. Your robe is changed to midnight blue, a color reserved for those summoned by night. You're not asked if you're ready. You are only reminded smile only when smiled at, speak only when spoken to, look only when looked upon. And above all, you are not just a servant. You are the offering. And outside, the stars begin to emerge. You sit beside the other chosen concubines, each one adorned like a dream someone else imagined. NTHE corridor ahead is long, lit by lanterns, carpeted in red, lined with guards who will never speak your name. NNOT toward love, not toward power. NBUT toward another ritual, and another offering, another night, and in cherry blossom. The gods do not speak, but they watch. And in this world, that's enough. Because if they're watching, maybe someone, somewhere, and still remembers that you are. No law protects you here. Only power does. And power, like beauty, is both a gift and a punishment. Just before dusk. No step into the procession just before dusk. Cation KHE corridor stretches before you, lit by low lanterns swaying in the evening wind. The light dances across red lacquered walls, casting shadows that slither like serpents. Nos Crenley and Orban walk ahead of you, arranged not by name, but by maybe tonight and maybe never. You walk behind a woman named Li Hua. NSHE has been favored for 2 seasons. They say she once sang a single line of poetry that made the emperor weep. Now she barely speaks at all. NHER silence is her crown, her perfume her blade. Behind you walks another girl, too young to wear her fear properly. NSHE still thinks kindness will protect her. She'll learn. And its black-tiled roof cutting into the dusk like a mountain carved from ink. Guards stand inside. The hall is wide and gold-lit, air thick with sandalwood, and with sweat, and with expectation. A low hum of zither shivers through the room. Slow, syrupy, almost mournful. And there, behind a golden screen, sits the emperor. You never see his face. Only his shape, broad-shouldered, unmoving, unspeaking. NTHAT shape decides everything. An Enchi may glance your way. He may beckon, or he may turn his head to another, because here even your posture is a strategy. One misplaced hairpin, one blink too long, one heartbeat out of rhythm, and you could tumble down a hierarchy as steep as a mountain path after rain. You've seen it happen. NTHE woman who spilled her tea 3 nights ago, she's not here anymore. NNO1 speaks her name. No one dares to ask. NBUT the silence she left behind. N is shaped like fear. You think historians will want not of the girl who bit her tongue until it bled just to stop herself from laughing at the wrong time. And a eunuch steps forward with a scroll. His voice is thin, high, precise. NHE reads the order of entertainment. Names are spoken. Yours is not first. NBUT it is spoken. You rise, and you step to the center of the silk-carpeted floor. NTHE carpet is softer than anything you wore as a child. Still, you feel naked. You raise your arms. You begin to dance. NNOT wildly. Not the angle of your gaze. Not dancing to be desired. You are dancing to be remembered. None to be remembered. On the move, you feel the weight of the invisible pyramid behind you. And even among the concubines, the tears are real, known to be etched into the air like the calligraphy on palace gates. Non Zubifi, the noble consort, whose word carries weight. Non Subi Revervi radiant in red, with 2 handmaidens and her own garden. Non Sui Reaver whispered about Fortio, whispered about. Non Sui Reaver, but behind the screen, the emperor speaks. Just a word. NTHE eunuch bows in acknowledgement. Your name is added to the list of those remaining after supper. You do not let your breath quicken, but somewhere inside your ribs a flicker and an OT of joy, just survival. And you sit again, this time closer to the raised dice, still far, still faceless, NBUT closer. Because the hierarchy here is spatial. It lives in distance. NNT hoes seated nearest to the emperor sip sweeter wine. Their bowls overflow with peach and lotus soup. Their silence carries weight. NT hoes near the door. They are already forgotten. Dinner arrives in gilded trays, fish carved like clouds, dumplings folded into birds. But you barely eat. NNOT out of modesty, not of caution. And a bloated stomach under silk is betrayal. A mouth that chews too eagerly is vulgar. A woman too eager to taste is seen as undisciplined. NSO you nibble. And a sliver of duck. And a spoon of broth. And forward demands restraint. Not because power demands restraint, and of us power demands restraint. Light with the music softens and the moon begins its climb. And you may be summoned and you may not, and it does not matter, because the real test here is not in being chosen. It's in surviving the nights when you are not, and still returning the next evening. Eventually the gathering ends. You rise with the others, in a no again. Deeper than before, NNTHE night is cool now. NTHE sky is a dark silk scattered with pearls. The stars spill across it like a necklace broken on the floor of a forgotten chamber. You walk back toward your quarters, your feet remember the way. It runs on obedience, on ritual, on a hierarchy so sharp and it carves itself into the spines of women like you. And scrolls centuries from now, you whisper to yourself, and it was N for poets, N for generals. And it was N for poets, NBUT, you will be dust between the pages. NBUTU, you will be dust between the pages. And a name without ink, and a face without legend, and still you were here. Envy more is still in you. You are the offering. NBUT tonight. You begin to wonder, and what happens to the offering once it's been forgotten? You haven't spoken all day. NNOT, a single word. Your voice, once soft, once curious, has become something ornamental, and a silk flower tucked into your hair, beautiful, decorative, useless. You wonder what it would sound like now if you used it. Would it emerge cracked and papery? Would it still sound like you? Or he will hensuri, you sit alone in your chamber, NTHE corridor has gone still. The laughter has faded. Even the zithers, always playing somewhere beyond the wall, have gone quiet, as if the music too has grown tired of pretending, and NTHE air smells faintly of rose ash and dust. The incense burned out hours ago, and only the wind, still graceful Anne, but inside the seams are splitting in silence. You are unraveling in threads no one sees. No one asks, are you cold? No one asks, do you hurt? No one asks anything. You've become scenery, and a fixture in this world of silken mirrors. Your role is clear and perform. Bow, glow, vanish, repeat. Your chest feels tight. Not from corsets, not from fear. From weight, NTHE weight of being seen but never known. NOF being remembered for a gesture but never for a truth. NOF becoming a mask so perfecting you forget there was ever a face beneath it. You glance toward the mirror. Then for a moment you don't recognize the woman inside it. NTHE rouge on your cheeks is even. Your eyebrows are shaped like brush strokes. Your hair, you lean closer. You look into your own eyes, not for vanity but in search of proof. NTHAT, you still exist. You whisper your name in your mind. NNOT out loud. You wouldn't dare and brain. Do I still believe in her and did she ever really exist? NNO answer comes. NTHE Emperor is silent. NTHE Emperor is silent. NTHE Emperor is silent. NTHE Emperor is silent. NTHE only just in your trooping on rifts and now you feminine. Distant N. You wonder NHA's someone been chosen tonight? Someone new? And I she feeling special, not knowing yet that even desire becomes ritual in this place? NTHAT once the curtain falls and the candles are snuffed out, desire turns to silence. You lie back on your sleeping mat. Your pillow is stiff, beautiful but unsparing. Nothing here is made for comfort. Nothing here is made for comfort. Nothing here is made for comfort. Nothing here is made for a moment. Nothing here as memory presses in. Be careful which one you bow to. You remember your name? What it used to mean. How it sounded when shouted across your village courtyard. How it meant you. Now no one says it, and no one dares to, and NTHE maids do not speak unless spoken to. The guards avert their eyes. The concubines speak only in riddles and roses. And every sentence is a blade. Every compliment a trap. NSO your thoughts turn inward. And what you find there scares you. You find nothing. NNOT rage. Not even sorrow. Just stillness. A stillness so heavy, it could crush a heart. Nene desert where once you danced barefoot under the moon. La Talkyard, where once your laughter lived. Now, silence. Nothing grows there. And brain. Maybe I'm not meant for this. NTHE thought doesn't shout. It doesn't accuse. It just sits, quietly, like a stone at the bottom. Brain. Maybe the gods made a mistake, NNOT when they made you. But when they let you live long enough and to forget who you were, you rise, slowly cross your chamber to the screen in the corner. You slide it aside. You open it with fingers that shake, inside a handkerchief from your mother. Still soft, and a carved comb your father made, from bone, not ivory, not dried lotus petal, from the temple ceremony the day you were chosen. Nod you hold them. They feel like bones of a creature that once breathed. You press the petal to your lips. NNO scent remains. Just the echo of a girl who once wanted to be wanted. You return them. Close the chest. Slide the screen shut. Bury the ache, again. Because midnight is near. And tomorrow they may call your name, nor they won't. Either way, you will walk like grace. You will walk like silk, and no one will know that tonight. You will walk like silk, and no one will know that tonight. And you cracked. NTHAT something inside you bent toward the breaking point. You whisper your own name again, just to hear it once more. NTO prove to yourself. Hairline fractures down the spine of a woman taught never to scream, taught to serve, in to float, in to fade. And still you keep going, because even the forgotten have rhythm, and even the invisible have pulse, and even a girl turned to ritual still holds the flicker of rebellion in her chest. You are not fire, you are not storm, NBUT, you are still here. You still breathe, and somewhere in this dark NTHAT is still something. There is a line in the sand, NNOT1 carved by law, not one painted in ink, and but one etched beneath the skin. You can't see it, but tonight you can feel it. NSHARP, cold. Relying between silence and rebellion, between the mask you wear and the voice you still carry deep inside your chest, and now you're standing right beside it. An NTHE palace feels different tonight, NNOT louder and quieter, and that's what unsettles you. It's the fourth night of the Festival of Peonies in the most fragrant, most favored, most dangerous night of all. In our time when poets are summoned, when dancers compete not with skill but with eyes, when emperors drink too much, you are summoned. And earlier than usual, NTHAT alone breaks the rhythm. NNO flute, no scroll, just a whisper from a maid who doesn't meet your gaze. And you've been requested. Now you dress quickly. NNOT with care, but with instinct. You select your blue-gray robe again, the color of maybe, Your hands tremble only once. When tying the sash, you tell yourself it's nothing. NBUT, you know better. NTHE corridor is dim. NTHE lanterns haven't been lit. There are no guards at the side gate. Only a single figure, a eunuch, perhaps, waiting beneath a pine tree bent like a question mark. NHE gestures without words. You fall. You are being rerouted, unscripted, and unwatched and unarmed. And NTHE room is small, and in dark silent, and the Emperor is inside, and NOT behind a screen. Not veiled by shadow, not flanked by advisors or dancers. NHE is visible, and alone, watching you drop into a bow, deeper than usual. NBUT, even before your hands touch the mat, you feel it. He's already standing close. NTOO close. This is not the performance you've... Just one question, N. Do you know why I've chosen you? Your throat tightens, your tongue searches for the right answer, but finds only fear. You lift your head slowly, eyes low, N, voice lower. Know your majesty. NHE begins to circle you. NHE begins to circle you. NOT touching NBUT. His presence scrapes the air like flint against steel. You feel him behind your ear. NBUT his present and wise Grieger Sibelians bloom. Another nod, and many years ago. NHI's face doesn't change. NBUT the room does. It becomes smaller, sharper, hungrier, then the line. Then you understand why I must ask, and where do your loyalties lie? And it arrives like a storm in your chest. NTHE line, NNO longer metaphor, real. Present, drawn in flame, you could lie. You've done it before. You've practiced the lines like prayers, N, my loyalty lies with the Son of Heaven. My body, my breath, my life, all belong to you. You could say it now and survive. N, but something in you resists, a sliver of voice and a forgotten drumbeat. You inhale, and then you say something you never rehearsed. N, my body belongs to the palace, but my heart has not known where it lives for a long time. And THE air hardens. Even the shadows freeze. NTHE silence is deafening. And a no gasp. No slap. No laugh. Just silence. You've crossed it, NTHE line. You've spoken your truth. And a no 2T in naked, not even as a woman. NBUT as a mirror. Then in that reflection, you see something terrifying in an OT hatred. Not punishment, not punishment. Recognition, NNBUT, then it ends. And as quickly as it came, NHE nods, curt. Sharp. Final, NHE waves a hand. Mo eunuch enters, you are not spoken to. Only motion toward the door. Never THE trial is over, nor maybe it has only just begun. You step outside, and THE corridor is darker than before. The air colder NTHE lanterns still unlit. Your footsteps make no sound on the stone. You are not punished. You are not rewarded. You are simply remembered. NNOT for beauty, not for grace, not for your dance. NBUT for speaking. N. Back in your chamber, you sit on the edge of your mat, your back still straight, but your hands tremble. N is likely NBUT, it's enough to feel real again. NNTHE moment replays again and again. NHI's eyes. Your voice at this space between you. Then and now, a new fear N brain. Will they come for me tonight? Will I vanish like the others who said too much? Nor worse in brain will nothing happen at all? Nor worse. Ministre and but, still you do not regret it. Because for one fleeting moment beneath carved dragons and painted pushpin, what comes next may never be written. You may disappear. You may rise. You may become a myth or a warning. But, none of that matters now, because you were there and you spoke. And no matter what happens tomorrow, tonight, and you were whole, then you wait now, NNOT for mercy, not for notice, NBUT simply, NTO, see who you are, and on the other side of the line. A single hairpin could buy your mother's freedom, a single embroidered robe more than your entire village earns in a year. NBUT here those things are not wealth. They are uniform. Here value wears silk and silence like armors. And you are surrounded by treasures and not adorn nothing. Not even your name, and in OT even yourself. You rise before the sun long before the crows stir in the Cypher basin. You like because words, like jade, like spice, like trust, are expensive. And today, you are saving every syllable, and you dress in apricot silk and light. Floating NTHE sleeves whisper like petals as you move. It was hand-stitched by blind nuns in the southern mountains. The thread, harvested from worms fed on mulberry trees, the dye, made from crushed flower buds gathered before dawn. This robe could feed your village for a season. NBUT here. It's just Tuesday. You wear it like skin. NNOT because you love it. Because you must. Because here appearance is currency. And anything less than beauty is considered theft. You wear it. Because to survive here is to be valuable or vanish. The maid lays out your combs. Tortoiseshell, bone, ivory, each engraved with phoenixes or cranes, calligraphy or plum blossoms. You pick the jade one, NNOT the finest, NBUT the heaviest, solid in your hand, cool against your scalp, a small rebellion, trains of dragons chasing moons, cranes flying westward, maidens turning into constellations. You trace one maiden's outline with your fingertip. You wonder if she ever existed, or if she too was just a name borrowed by someone. Not protectors, not companions, just record keepers with eyes like locked boxes. They memorize your steps, your pauses, your hesitations. NNOT, your thoughts. Never your thoughts. In the pavilion, you are taught again, NHOW to pour tea from porcelain cranes. How to bow with sincerity you do not feel. How to recite a verse about autumn leaves without letting your voice crack. This is not education. Each pause. You start learning enough to bribe a maid to deliver a letter. NBUT now? NTHAT price has doubled. Since the last girl was caught with ink beneath her fingernails. NN01 says her name now. They just sweep her room. NS scrub her walls. Refill her wardrobe. And wait for the next girl to wear her fate. N. You've learned that even whispers have taxes, and sometimes the cost of hope is higher than the cost of surrender. Monobind. A strange fact floats through your mind. Monobind, 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 bind, 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 monobind, Manabine, bine, bine, bine. Manabine, bine, bine, bine. Manabine, manabine, banabine. Manabine, bine. Because here, even digestion must be disciplined. In the afternoon, you embroider, NNOT for yourself, NFOR, a ceremonial screen, a gift to a foreign ambassador. You kneel beside 3 others, knees down. Fingers aching. You stitch chrysanthemums into silk the color of dried blood. Each flower could buy a field of wheat. NBUT, you will never touch a grain of it. Kneel one because even unpaid labor can be a form of identity. And identity, that's the one thing they haven't taken from you completely. NNOT yet. NNOT yet. As you pull the golden thread through the plum-colored cloth, a thought presses at your ribs and brain. What if but flesh, hair, obedience, silence. You pause, NTHE needle hovers midair. You breathe once, deep, quiet, then you keep sewing, because you are not a coin, and you are a story. And stories, even silent ones, can survive centuries. In the evening, you hear whispers, and a new girl arrived today, and from the northern provinces, N16. Soft-spoken, her wrists still red from farm work, her feet not yet trained to glide. Tomorrow she'll be powdered, perfumed. Placed NHER robe will be too stiff, her smile too hopeful. And her name? It will be shaved into something more palatable. You want to warn her. NTO say, don't believe the myths. Don't trust the mirrors. NBUT, you don't. Because here, warnings are wasted, and every woman must learn her own price. Later, you remove your robe. It slides from your shoulders like silked armor. Your reflection in the basin is quiet. Pale, unreadable, you trace your collarbone. You whisper nigh, am not just what they use. I am what I survive. Because in this place, and where luxury is a cage, and obedience is a currency, and survival itself becomes rebellion. And your rebellion? It's not loud. It's refusing to vanish. It's choosing the heavier comb, the slower blink, the steadier stitch. It's saying nothing when silence is expected, but meaning something anyway. Tomorrow you'll rise again. They will measure you again. Count your value in glances and footsteps. NBUT, you? You'll cost more than they know, because what they see is silk and powder. NBUT, what they never count, what they never value, is the soul that walks beneath it. And you? You still walk. You thought this life would be beautiful, NNOT easy, not kind, but at least elevated. You imagine moonlight over jade corridors, secret glances exchanged behind golden fans, silken robes flowing like river water, life sculpted like a poem, delicate, tragic, eternal. NBUT the truth. Everyone sit now at the edge of the courtyard garden. Quieter. You sit now at the edge of the courtyard garden. Vision quaits of lane. Everyone says it's peaceful here. The poem says never leave. You face mask. You are not just a servant. You are the offering. You still remember the first time someone whispered that to you. No woman with no eyebrows. No softness. No illusions left in her voice. You thought she meant it as something sacred. You thought you'd been chosen. NBUT now? You understand. It meant you were consumable. You used to believe this palace was a sanctuary of art and elegance, and calligraphy and poetry, and philosophy and beauty. Now you know, and much of it is performance, not practice, not love. Now calligraphy is done to impress, and poems are written as currency, and philosophy is quoted but never lived. You remember the night a foreign prince mistook you for a high consort. He bowed, slightly, asked if you played the guqin. You lied. Yes, you hadn't touched an instrument in years. Your fingers had long since forgotten music. NBUT, someone handed you one anyway, and you played it, soft, halting, empty, and He smiled. You smiled. Then the myth lived one more day. Another time, you overheard two servant girls whispering N. The emperor's women are the luckiest in the world. One was only 15. The other nodded too quickly. You wanted to laugh and to scream. But instead, you adjusted your robe and walked past them like smoke. Because myth is stronger than truth. And the truth, NTHE truth, is simple. You are hungry, all the time, and NOT just for food. Though what you eat is cold, measured, ceremonial. NBUT for breath, and for freedom. For sleep untouched by dreams of vanishing. You crave touch that doesn't feel like possession. You crave a door that opens both ways. They think you wake to flute music and that you are adored. Each bow you receive chips away a little more of what's left inside you. Because they bow to the robe, not the woman. You once asked a maid, softly in, "What happened to Lady Zhang?" NSHE blinked. "Who?" And in that exact moment you understood, and even the names here fade faster than the perfume. You are told this is sacred work, that you are here to serve beauty, to embody grace. In BUT you see the cracks. They see the cracks, they say, tired. They call it retirement, she says. It's just another kind of forgetting. NSHE hands you something, and a mirror NS small, bronze, etched with a phoenix. This belonged to the last girl who broke the rules. Did she die? You ask. NSHE shrugs. No, they just stopped looking at her. You hold the mirror up to your face. NTHE bronze is warped, and smudged and worn. You can barely see your reflection. NBUT. The eyes? They're still there, and blurred but steady. Behind them, someone still breathes. NNOT, a myth. Not a servant, not a vessel, just you. And for a moment, and the spell cracks. Just slightly, you realize and it runs on belief. As long as you believe in the illusion, you help hold it up. In BUT, if you stop, NIF, you stop believing, and even silently, and even briefly, you become dangerous. In face mask, you are not just a decoration. You are the consequence. They never taught you that part. In BUT, now you know, and now, in you act accordingly. You stop offering flattery where silence will do. You stop clinging to smiles that cost too much. You stop pretending you don't see the game. You still play it, but differently. Because your power now lies in the withholding. In you don't need to break rules. You just need to see through them. And that, Nthat alone is resistance. Tonight, the wind howls through the carved eaves. The curtains dance like ghosts. You sit by your window, and robe loose, and mirror in hand. You don't cry. You don't rehearse. You don't perform. You exist. And for once that feels like enough. NNOT as a symbol, not as an offering. Just as a woman who still breathes, even in a world trying to forget her. You didn't plan it. You didn't rehearse it. You didn't even mean to disrupt anything. NBUT, something happens today. Something quiet. Something no one else may notice. And yet, it will change everything. You rise with the still dark sky. You wash your face in silence. You bow to no one in particular, but the habit feels etched into your spine. You bow to no one in particular, but the habit feels etched into your spine. Your robe is seafoam green. None the rest delicate, embroidered with plum blossoms and birds you will never see. Addressed not to you, written not for you, but found by you all the same. You should have returned it. You should have sent for a maid. You should have sent for a maid. The ink still smells faintly of pine and tears. The ink still smells faintly of pine and tears. It is not poetry. It is not politics. It is not poetry. It is not politics. It is not politics. No Fongoan skies. Mount of powder applied so thick, she no longer knew her own skin. But I die knowing I was only beautiful enough to be used. You fold the letter. NNOT reverently, NNOT carefully. You hold it like fire, because now you are burning. You walk the corridor, NNOT toward the bathhouse, not toward the practice chamber, not toward your scheduled tea performance. You walk toward the hall of petal shadows. You are not summoned. You are not expected. You are not expected. NBUT, you go anyway. You are not expected. Enichi is away. Inside the hall, the emperor is absent. Enichi is away. And when the chief eunuch approaches, eyes thin as slits, voice sharp as bone, he hisses, "What are you doing here?" You raise your gaze. NNOT. High N. But higher than before. You say nothing. You step forward. You place the letter on the lacquered table. This, you say, is what your palace makes. Your voice does not tremble. Your hands do not shake. You turn and leave NNO. Your hands do not shake. Your NN. But real. You are summoned the next morning. NNOT to a cell. Not to a courtroom. NBUT to a new chamber. NS smaller. Is Remical late. Overlooking the East Garden, the one no one visits, where no parades are held, where no whispers linger. Some would call it exile, no witchy action as one. Some would call it exile in the BODU. Some would call it exile. When in emotion, some would the first time in months. You walk the stone path by your window, the bayou by your just sound, your voice, returning in fragments. You scribble verses onto scrap cloth. You light a candle each night, not for gods, not for the emperor, but for yourself. A private vigil and a small rebellion, weeks pass. You are not chosen. You are not asked to dance. You are not paraded in perfume and jewels. You are left alone. Anreopad begames your power. You remember who you were. Before your silence was purchased, before your value was weighed by eyes, not your own. Before your name was spoken only when scheduled, then, one night a soft knock. Before your name was spoken, once tsdukul in only slightly. They say you're the shadowed one. She says you nod. And then you say, Nen, there is a way to live. but not the way they expect. NSHE returns the next night, and then the next, and then another comes. Then two NNO banners. No speeches, no rebellion. Just quiet women in a quiet room, writing names and stitching truth into scrap cloth. You are not rising in the ranks. You are not being remembered by the court poets. NBUT. You are building something more enduring than fame. You are building memory, not in a world ruled by illusion. Memory is a revolution, not just to survive. NBUT to remember. NTO breathe. N to exist. N to matter. Quietly, fiercely, invisibly. And maybe someday, N when the scrolls have crumbled, and in the names of favorites have faded, there will still be stories about a concubine who handed in a letter. N walked into the lion's den, and walked out with her fire still lit. The moon rises like a whisper over the palace wall, and its light spills gently across lacquered beams and tiled eaves, pooling on the floor like melted pearl. Not loud, not boastful, just there, and present like you. And tonight, you let it touch you. You do not bow, you do not hide. You stand in the moon's quiet gaze and let yourself be seen, not as a concubine, not as a servant, not as a decoration, but as someone who has survived the day, someone who is still. Here, your chamber is quieter than usual. NTHE doors are closed, not slammed. The air does not smell like command, only sandalwood fading gently into night. The wind plays at the edges of the wooden shutters, and there's no knock, no summons, no voice calling your name like an order. NFOR the first time in what feels like years. You're not preparing to become someone else. You are simply being unfolding, softening, coming home to a self that tried to gild into dis. You sit on the mat by the open window, your knees drawn close, your arms wrapped around yourself, not from cold, but in something tender, something like recognition. And this body, this heart, this breath, they are still yours, still bruised, still aching, NBUT yours. And they have carried you, NNOT, just through a day. But through an entire season of silence, you reach for your comb, not the ornate one of ivory or tortoise shell, but a simple wooden one. Its teeth are worn, its curve imperfect. NBUT, it fits your hand like memory. You drag it slowly through your hair. NBUT, it fits your hand was silenced. The poem you whispered into your sleeve, hoping the silk would remember it. And the face freed, you walk barefoot across the chamber floor. It creaks, a gentle protest beneath your steps. But even the wood has softened with age. Each step reminds you that you have weight, that you still exist, that this world, no matter how gilded or cruel, still must make room for you. You pour cool water into the copper basin, and it stills. Reflects, you peer into it, NNOT with scrutiny, not with expectation, just curiosity. And there you are, NUN painted, not unadorned, not arranged, not arranged, not arranged, not nice. Quiet lips, skin untouched by powder. You touch your reflection like you're meeting a childhood friend for the first time in years. We made it, you whisper. You're still here. You cleanse your face, not as ritual, not as performance. NBUT is liberation. You wipe away the mask that never quite fit, the layers they told you were beauty. The colors they said would make you visible, while they trained you to be silent. And beneath it, the colors they said would make you visible. One by one you extinguish the lanterns, and each flame flickers before. It keeps the night from closing in too tightly. It whispers a different kind of light, the kind you choose. The kind no one assigned of the you lie down, NOT in submission. Not in presentation, not in presentation, not in presentation. NBUT in ownership, NNOT in ownership. And it is not a throne, and it is not a cell. It is simply a place to rest. And within this stillness, they sway gently, like lullabies in motion. Like you remembered your mother's hands in your hair by the hearth, the taste of rice fresh from the pot, the sound of rain tapping the bamboo roof. Your name, not shouted, not assigned, but spoken with love. You cradle those memories. You carry them like small lanterns inside your chest. You are no longer empty. You are luminous in quiet places, in speech balloon. You were never just a servant. You were the story. NTHE words arrive now not as fantasy, but as truth. You were never just the petals scattered beneath a king's footsteps. Never just the painted mouth reciting someone else's verse. You are the story. NNOT, the myth. N, not the ledger. N, not the illusion. NTHE story. NTHE unwritten. The untold, and the unforgettable. And you are telling it now, with your breath, deep, not afraid. And for the first time the world exhales with you. Not as if it always knew you'd make it this far, that silence would bend but not break you, that your voice, soft persistent, would bloom again. NNOT as defiance, but as belonging. But as belonging a Boea, tomorrow the palace will resume. NTHE scrolls will be read. Boea in the NBUT, none of it will undo this night. None of it will undo this night. None of it can rewrite what you reclaimed. Esel Nainion softly. The world doesn't end with thunder or rebellion, or fire. It ends with the soft breath of a woman finally allowed to sleep. NNOT, because the pain is gone, not because the world has changed, NN, because she has. And it begins again, in you and you have lived this day. NNOT glanced at it, not imagined it, you have worn it. You've stepped barefoot on wooden floors, polished by generations of silence. You've smiled without joy, laughed without sound. You were the ache no record kept. You were the truth behind the gaze of every painted girl. You not a ghost, and not a legend, and but a living beating story. They told you your place was to please. They told you your place was to please. To be grateful, NTO. NTO perfume your sorrow. To choreograph your suffering. NBUT the truth. You were not decoration. You were not delay. You were not background. You were the center. You were what gave the palace its shape. And when people, slender wrists curved around teacups, music, moonlight prayer, NBUT, they don't remember the ache in your ankles, the weight of waiting, the bruises from kneeling too long, the rot beneath the painted ceilings. They don't know the taste of dreams swallowed down like bitterness, the raw edges of your name said only when convenient, the way silence became your language, because speaking was a crime you were too tired to commit. You heard her, NTHE girl behind the painted lips, the woman. You were the story. Now, you understand. Not because you escaped. Not because the scrolls will ever remember your name. Not because justice arrived like a hero in the night. NBUT because you remembered yourself. You remembered that you existed beyond the performance. NTHAT, you were real. You always were. And that in a world built to erase you is a kind of quiet revolution. Your hair may gray, your reflection may soften, the silk may one day forget your scent. NBUT, they will close their crescent moon. So now, well, final question. One no emperor can answer. One no scroll records. One you must answer with your breath, with your stillness, with your sleep. Could you have survived a single day in this world? NNOT, the fantasy. Not the myth of crimson robes and celestial poems. Not the illusion of being chosen. The truth. NTHE hunger. The exhaustion, the economy of obedience. Watched the stars above her disappear behind silk curtains and whispered suspicion. Then you stayed. You stayed until the end of the day. Then maybe that means you're part of something rare. Nang quiet lineage. Nang can quiet len in a point ain the kind passed not through scrolls or stories, and but through feeling, through knowing, through recognition and silence. You are the kind who sees ghosts in empty corridors, not to fear them, and but to remember them. You are the kind who knows how maybe this story was never just about her, or about them, or even about you. Maybe this story was about us. NTHE soft ones, some of the silent ones, and the vanished ones who never stopped knowing who they were. Maybe that's what survives. NNOT the Empire. Now close your eyes. Let the lacquered halls dissolve. Let the scent of sandalwood become memory. Let the palace slip back into dust. You are not trapped in the past anymore. Sleep well, storyteller. You carried her life tonight. You held her breath inside your own. You whispered her name when no one else remembered it. You honored what was never written. And maybe in some small, invisible way you set her free. In candle, rest now. You are not performing, you are not surviving, you are not waiting, you are arriving. In game or